I usually only give my dogs raw, stuffed Kongs, like frozen Kongs, or I give them raw marrow bones because they don't shatter. The cooked marrow bones can shatter, so then they can have shards, but the raw ones, and they make some tiny enough that Cabot could do. They come in little tiny ones.
Yeah.
And they're frozen at the pet stores in a frozen bin usually. And that way I don't have to like worry because I give them something to entertain them so that I can actually go and do something. But if I'm like so worried they're going to choke, it kind of defeats the purpose.
I know. Yeah.
I used to have a dog that um, before I stopped giving bully sticks, he would get the bully stick about this big, and then he had this thing where he'd start tossing it back like this, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, you're scaring me to death!" And finally, I'm like, "I'm done with this. It's like this is not fun for me. You might be having fun, but it's not fun for me." So, and dogs do choke, So hey, how's it going? Hey, Peggy.
Good, Penny. How are you?
Good, good. Um, yeah, we were just talking about. I only give Reba swallowed a bit of a bully stick, and we were just talking about what I consider safe things. And yeah, bully sticks. How big was the bully stick? How much of it was left? Was it like about, pretty good size?
6 inches.
Did she ever pass it?
No, it was 6 inches when she swallowed it.
Wow. Have you seen any signs of it coming out?
No, I called our vet and they said I'd take her to the emergency vet and get it.
Yeah, good advice.
But I went to the emergency vet and they were like, it's probably going to digest in her system. And if she's not having diarrhea, vomiting, or looking
Symptoms
sick,
like she's got a blockage. Yeah, the good thing about bully sticks is they're more digestible, like a rawhide. If she's done that with the rawhide, she'd have been in much serious problem, had much serious more chance of it turning into something. So well, the symptoms will tell. Yeah, so just keep an eye on it. Obviously you are.
she's been
uh,
fine. So
what's that?
she's been fine.
Good, good, I'm glad. That's scary stuff, man. um Okay, Dane and Gunther, he had to work again. They've scheduled him on Sundays. He's not happy about it, but I'm recording, so we'll get that to him. And let me just see who we still got coming in. Um, give Bailey, JC, and Eric a couple more minutes. See what they're coming in, but yeah. So I'm glad everyone's week's going well. How's little Millie doing?
She's good.
Good. Can I
We
see?
feed her a lot of bully sticks, and that always scares me too when they get really small.
Well,
And
I
feel
would
like she's
suggest
wound up.
when they get really small, just take them away. I mean,
Yeah,
that is
just
that
throw
is
'em
my
out.
suggestion.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because there's a very good chance at that point they'll swallow them. Um,
Right.
and it probably will be okay, but you just never know, especially if there's like a continuous swallowing of little pieces, then I could see how that could be a
Oh,
problem. Yeah, because it builds up.
right.
I had my dog that died a few years back. He would chew on tennis balls, and I would always try to be very vigilant to take him away before he started going in for the full on destruction thing. And I thought I was being vigilant enough. um, One day he started throwing up, and he threw up mountains of pieces of tennis ball. I couldn't even believe it. So in other words, my point is that stuff is still can be still stuck in their stomach. Luckily, it didn't ever cause a blockage. That was like a miracle. I still can't believe that it didn't. As many pieces of tennis ball that came up, I felt terrible. I thought I had been like vigilant, but apparently he was getting some tennis ball action when I wasn't noticing, but I was just horrifying. But then I was like, oh, good. He threw it up. So yeah, he felt pretty lousy for the day until he just like multiple times he got rid of it. I thought, boy, you must feel better now. Good Lord. Um, okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me just switch to full screen. Oh, let me check the waiting room because sometimes people come in and it doesn't show up. I'll just keep the waiting room open. See if I can do that and go into full screen. Nope, apparently not. Okay. All right, I'll just keep an eye on that. So yeah, it looks like everyone's chilling really well. That looks good. I was going to start today with a little more handling. As you remember before, we were doing some touching and then delivering a treat, touching and delivering the treat. We're going to take that a little bit further today, and we're going to work on doing some slight restraint with our puppies, which they really need to be comfortable with that for various reasons. But the obvious one would be, if they're being taken to a vet and they're having to be restrained. But there could be any number of reasons that you might need to restrain your puppy, or someone else might need to restrain them. So we need to work on getting them comfortable with that. So I'm going to do a little demo with Lolly, and I'm just going to start out by some simple touching, a little simple handling of touching, then delivering a treat, touching. I'm going to touch her ears, her paws, her mouth, and her tail, and also around her neck. And then I'm going to lure her in between my legs, and I'm going to place my hand on her chest, which is a feeling of restraint for a dog. And then I'm going to continue to feed her and watch for signs of discomfort. If she starts backing out backwards, then I'm going to stop and I'm going to walk away, and then I'll come back. And at that point, you need to just go back to simple handling. If your dog starts to whine or back away from you, then that's a sign that they're not ready for that next step of handling. So then you, like I said, just come back and start again with just some simple touching and then delivering the treats. While I'm restraining her and I have my hand on her chest, I'm going to be delivering a fairly quick rate of reinforcement. I'm just going to use a marker word. So I'll mark and then reward, mark and then reward. And then I'm going to sort of sit back on my heels. And then she's going to be a little bit more restrained at that point, because now she's going to be blocked from the back and from the front. And I'm going to continue to hold my hand on her chest, and I'm continue to feed her. Again, watching for signs of discomfort, whining, squirming. And then I'm just going to toss a treat and free her. So here we go. Just double check. Nope, don't see them coming in. So I'm actually going to go to full screen so I can see myself better. Okay. First, I'm just going to do some simple handling. Quite a bit of treats ready. I like that sound. And I'm just going to use a marker word. It's easier for this exercise. Let's get over here so they can see. Okay. Yes. Yes. Collar. Yes. Touch her paw. She pulled her paw back, so that tells me she's a little uncomfortable with that. So I'm just going to do a reach for her paw. Give her a treat. Touch that paw. That one worked. Good girl. Now I'm going to lure her around. She's not the best at following the lure, so we'll see how she does. Whoa, she just got a huge bite of my treats. Come on. Lure her between my legs. Come on. Okay. Now I'm going to put my hand on her chest. Yes. 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 So I'm just marking with the verbal marker. Yes. Now I'm going to sit down. So now she's kind of blocked. Yes. Yes. Okay. Good girl. You guys want to give that a try? Again, we're just going to start with some simple handling, watching for signs of discomfort, If they pull their paw away, we know that's too far for them. We need to revert back to just maybe a slight reach towards the paw. If they start whining or squirming, we know that they're not comfortable with whatever body part that you're touching at that moment. So just be conscious of their body language. That looks great with Reba. And yeah, and if you notice, when you touch their paw and it seems like maybe they're a little uncomfortable, you can try touching the paw lighter. And then if they're still uncomfortable, then mark and reward a reach for the paw. That looks great. So I'll have you go ahead and see if you can lure her between your legs. Great. And then put your hand on there. Yeah, that looks great. And just and go ahead and mark it with the word. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead and
I am. I just couldn't.
I realized that you were muted, so that yeah. See if you can get her back.
Okay.
Sometimes I find if I put a bunch of treats in my hand, they're more likely to follow the lure. Like it makes it more valuable. There it is. Great. Now try sitting down. Perfect. And just keep those treats coming. Great. That's perfect. You can go ahead and let her go now. Yeah. Excellent. Good job with that. So let's take a look at a little Kavik. That's looking pretty good there. Oh yeah. Very nice. And if it's going well, you can increase the pressure a little bit. That looks great, Marie. Okay, you can let him go. That looks good. Okay, let's see how little Millie's doing. Is she a little reluctant to go between your legs?
Yes, I would say that. Yes.
Okay. So with her,
Oh, no.
for her, then
Yeah.
what I would do for now is just stick with simple handling. Yeah,
Okay. Good.
and maybe just do some practice with following a lure with her. I found that some dogs just don't, they're not comfortable. They're almost like distrustful of it. And it's interesting. My Chihuahua is like that. When I try to lure her to do something, she'd be like, I don't understand it. And so, but for now, I would just continue to do some simple handling, touch,
Okay.
and then the touch would predict the treat. Perfect. That looks good, Peggy. She looks real comfortable. I like that. And again, just because they're comfortable now doesn't mean they might not change their mind down the road. And that is why we work on this consistently, so that we can guard against them changing their mind about a particular body part being touched. So yeah, we like to touch the ears, the paws, the mouth area, the tail, and then again work towards restraining them. And I'll be sending along with your homework a video that will outline this restraint, and will also take you a little bit further with it, with a little bit of Reba's getting pretty big, but I still think you guys will be able to hold her. Yeah, because there'll be some restraint, a little more involved restraint, where you'll be actually holding your puppy, and that might actually be perfect for Millie. So take a look at the video that I'm going to be sending with the homework, and if you can't get her to lure between the legs, maybe just skip ahead a little bit, and you'll see her start doing some handling in her arms, which is another type of restraint. But yeah, that's looking really good. Just again, remember, we're not just going for toleration, we're going for really good feelings, so that when and if they go through their fear period, or periods, depending on who you ask, they will be less likely to change their mind about how they feel about it. Okay. Let's go on. Okay, next up, we are going to work on stay again. but this time we're going to start adding some distance. And again, just to remind you, we have to make it easy enough for them to be successful so that they practice success. That's the hardest part with stay. People want to keep testing their dogs by putting them in a stay and then seeing if they can stay, and then they failed, and then trying again, testing them again and seeing if they can stay, and then they fail. That's testing, it's not training. So they're never going to progress past that point, or at all, actually. So we like to put them in the stay and make it easy enough for them to be successful. You can test them one time in the new environment, in the new setting that you're in, with whatever distractions, and you can go, okay, right now, this is what my dog is capable of. Or actually you test them and you go, okay, my dog is not capable of this right now. So I'm going to lower the criteria, make it much easier so that I know that they will be successful. And then what I'd like is for you to wait till you get 5 out of 5 successes before you try to make it harder for them. So remember the rule of 5, 5 of 5, push, only 1 or 2 of 5 drop, and 3 or 4 of 5 stick where you are. So I'm going to do a little demo with Lolly with some distance. And remember, we want to indicate to our dogs that the stay has a beginning and the stay has an end. Because if your dog ends the stay, then it's not really a stay. So what I'd like to do is say a release cue and then toss the treat off. So I'd like for you guys to start thinking of something you'd use as a release cue, and just go ahead and start using it right now, even if you can change your mind, but free or okay, whatever you want to do. Say it and then toss treat off, and then reset them for another stay. I'd like for you to see if you can make your criteria easy enough so that your dog can actually do 5 successful repetitions of it. I'm just going to do a little demo with Lolly, and then I'm going to set you guys to work. So again, a sit or down, whichever you prefer, whichever your dog is more comfortable with. The most important thing is that they don't move from the spot. Ready? Some treats ready? Yeah. Got lots of treats here for you. Break them up so you don't get too full. Okay. Put her in a sit, stay. Good girl. Okay. So I've only got like 1 step that time. So I'm going to try it again. Stay. Good girl. Okay. And I'm bungeeing back to her before I give the mark and the reward. Stay. Retracting my hand. Girl, so there's 3 out of 5. See if you can do 4. Stay. Whoops. Oh. Stay. So I would start my count over again with the 5. Good girl. So she messed up on that 4th one. So I'm going to start my count back over to get that 5 out of 5, because it's obviously still too hard for her because she couldn't do 5 in a row. But she got 3 in a row. So I'm going to stick to my criteria, which was 1 step back. Okay. So again, bungee back to your dog before you mark and reward. Retract your hand after you give the stay, and release them from the stay with the release cue, then toss a treat. Eventually, you won't have to toss a treat. You can just say your release cue, and they will have made that association. So we'll start with little Reba there. That looked great. Excellent.
Good girl. Stay.
That looked fantastic. Excellent. Good job. Good job with Reba. Okay, Marie, you're up with Kavik. Very nice. That's great. That looked fantastic. Let's see if you can get 5 of those in a row. And is that, oh, it's Shane. Shane, see if you can get 5 in a row of whatever criteria you wanted to use. Maybe where Darren, you were doing it before, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking like 3 steps.
Okay, see if you can get 5 in a row with the 3 steps. Maybe you did already, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, fantastic. That looked good with Kavik. That's so good. Sometimes the little dogs are harder to get to stay. That's great. He's gonna get that. Did he get it? Yeah. Okay, Millie. Let's see how Millie's doing with stay.
If I can get her to cooperate. Come here, Millie.
She pretty distracted.
Come here. Come on, Millie. Come on. Oh, come here, Millie.
And what you can try doing when you're really losing them like that is go ahead and put them on a leash, and that kind of
Okay. Oh, I didn't want to do that. All right, well, I didn't mean to give her a treat.
Oh, that's okay. You can give them a treat for sitting.
Good.
That looked great. Now just toss her off to reset her before you,
Go get it. Go get it.
Yeah, the reason that we're doing the release is so that we have a beginning and an end to the stay. And they don't release themselves from the stay. She's got an itch. Let's try one more with Millie.
Go get it. All right. Sit. Stay. Good.
That looked great.
Good.
Now just go ahead and release her. Just say, you can say, there she goes. And you can say, I can't, you're muted, so I'm not sure if you're using a release cue, but think of one that you might want to use, like okay or free, or do you have something that you want to use?
Yeah, we're gonna do free.
Okay, perfect. So you'll say free, and you'll pause just a slight beat, and then you'll toss the treat. And eventually, when you say free, you won't have to toss the treat. She will have made the association that free means move away and go do my thing.
Okay. So question, when we're working on distance right now,
yeah,
you should go back and reward her and then free her, right?
Yes, I would go back, mark, reward, say your release cue, and then toss the treat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there, we're just tossing the treat to get them up and moving,
right.
But we'll definitely mark and reward them while they're still in the stay. And then the treat that we toss off is just, and you don't even have to toss a treat. You can also just be really animated and say free, and then, slap your thighs, do whatever it takes to get your dog up out of it. That works well too. It's just tossing a treat is just a simple way to make that happen, because ordinarily a dog will run over and grab the treat, and then they're out of the stay position. And the reason why I recommend that you go back to your dog at this point is when a dog is waiting to be called out of a stay, they tend to be more aroused. They're like, when are you going to call me? When am I going to? So it tends to give make it a little more likely for them to break the stay, because it's harder the more worked up you are to remain in place. When you've got a rock solid stay, then by all means you can start calling them out of the stay. That works perfectly fine, and you can mark them and then call them out of the stay and reward them. but that's going to be down the line. For now, when you're working on distance, I highly recommend that you bungee back to them and then give them the market and then reward them and then free them, so that they don't free themselves, so that you're in control of that stay. And also remember the 3Ds: distance, duration, and distraction. Never increase more than one of those at a time. If you've been doing, your 3 steps back, as Darren was doing, then if you took that outside, say next to a busy street, certainly don't go to 4 steps back. Stay at your 3 steps, because now you've added distraction. So that alone is a challenging enough for Reba, and we don't want to make that any harder for her at that point. You obviously are adding duration when you add distance. I mean, that's just built in. But in other words, don't do do your how many steps back and then pause like 5 minutes. If you've added a step, don't also add a big pause onto that. Anyway, you guys get the picture. So yeah, once you got a PhD level stay, then by all means, you can start calling them from the stay, releasing them from the stay like that. And don't repeat the cue, and make sure you're not letting your hand stay out there. And I didn't see anybody do that, so it looked really good. You're just putting your hand out and you're pulling it back again, which is fantastic. Okay, looking good, you guys. So we are going to work on, let me check the time real quick. Doing good. Today we're going to work on a bit more formal loose leash walking. This one's is a little trickier to demo. So I'm going to do a demo, but first I'm going to show a little video, which will help give a bigger picture. And then I'll do a little demo with Lolly the best I can in this setting. And then also with your homework, I'll be sending that video that we're going to watch with the homework so that you can reference it. So the big picture on getting that loose leash is we reward what we want, and that is walking in our proximity bubble and rewarding attention for check-ins, and punishing what we don't want, and that's pulling. And by punish, I mean withhold reinforcement. That's the only kind of, for the most part, it's the only kind of punishment that rewards-based trainers use. So we will withhold the reinforcement of going forward, so we are punishing them. So basically, reward what we like, punish what we don't like. But the more important part of the piece is rewarding what we like, but they're both important. If we can build a lot of value in proximity and check-ins, we're laying a really good foundation for a loose leash as we walk. So when you start teaching your dog not to pull, on that aspect of training your dog to have a loose leash, it's actually sort of an all-in commitment. Because if you don't allow your dog to pull when you're training, but then say you're going to the park and you walk out of the house and you let your dog pull to the car, see, it's all the same to them. They're not differentiating. It's all the same to them. So once you start working on pulling, you kind of have to commit to it, you really need to commit to it for a few weeks, depending on the dog. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But if you're not ready to commit to that just yet, just work on rewarding in the proximity when they give you that, staying close to you, whatever that bubble that you're choosing, and rewarding check-ins. So we're going to watch this little video. And this is Kiko Pup, who I love her style and the way that she teaches. So highly recommend following her on YouTube. So I'm going to share here. So let me call this up. Okay, sometimes it's hard to find. There it is. Okay, so here we go.
Walking, or in other words, no pulling on leash. Here you can see I am walking down the street with my 2 dogs, and both of the leashes are slack. There is no tension in the leash, and both dogs are calm and relaxed and doing what they like to do, look around and sniff. When you follow a dog on a tight leash, you are actually training the dog to pull. This is because they are getting a big reward for tugging you along behind. They get to move forwards. Not only is pulling uncomfortable for the owner, but is uncomfortable for the dog as well. A dog that pulls on leash is more likely to become over-aroused on walks because of the tension on their neck or chest, causing them to bark and lunge at other dogs and people. By walking on a loose leash, a dog learns to control their impulses and behave in a relaxed and calm manner. This is Max, a Chihuahua. He's giving a demo on what pulling on leash looks like. He's not looking back once and pulling ahead, getting to where he wants to go without a care in the world what I'm doing behind him. I mean nothing to him. Here's one game you can play. Drop a treat and walk ahead. As the dog catches up, click them before they get to you and reinforce them in the position you'd like them to be. So drop the treat at the back of your heel or feed them back behind your leg. What to do if the dog pulls. If the dog pulls ahead and the leash becomes tense, simply stop, encourage the dog back by patting your leg or making a kissy noise, take a couple steps back, and when they're in a nice loose leash, continue walking forwards.
That's a great way too, but we also teach another way that I'll demo. We call it red light, green light. And instead of prompting the dog back, we just stop and wait the dog out for them to either turn around and look at you or to put slack in the leash. If either one of those things happen, we mark and reward it, and then we continue on. But I'll show you that. And either of those ways works. So you'll have option to do either one or both.
If the leash becomes tense again, just simply continue doing the backing up. Another technique is, as the leash becomes tense, you simply turn around and go the other way.
I once tried to train a dog to do loose leash walking years ago. I might have told you guys this, but and that's all I did was continue to turn. He would pull, I'd go in the other direction. He would pull, I'd go in the other direction. So essentially I was just punishing him, but I didn't know anything about training at the time. What I didn't know, I just read that somewhere randomly. And so I adopted it because he was a terrible puller. I mean, it was unbelievable. He would get low to the ground and put all his weight. I worked on that for months on end and hardly made any progress. We looked like lunatics in the neighborhood. He was frustrated. I was frustrated. I left out one of the biggest part of the equation was I wasn't rewarding him when he was doing what I wanted. I was only punishing him for when he did what I didn't want to do. We have to teach our dogs we have to indicate to our dogs what we want them to do and then reward them for that when they do it. So yeah, I felt terrible about that, as I gained more skills as a trainer that I put him through that. I can't even imagine how frustrating that must have been for him to just be constantly doing that when we go for a walk. Oh, well, we live and we learn.
Don't forget to click your dog when you see them walking perfectly. Also, practice stopping and clicking them for staying with you. If they rush ahead, no click. Here's a training tip. Practice indoors first, where there's no distraction. You want to build a strong foundation on the behavior of being next to you is the best place to be. If you do your homework and practice in your yard and in your house first before you hit the street, your dog will be more likely to be attentive to you. Another technique is Don't go for the walk that you usually do, where your dog habitually pulls. Instead, practice walking back and forth in front of your house. Not only do you become very unpredictable in the direction that you're going, which can make your dog much more attentive, but your dog no longer knows which way is forwards. Therefore, they're less likely to want to pull ahead. The great thing about this technique is you're not forcing your dogs to stay with you. You're building being next to you as a wonderful place to be, so that even when you drop the leash, your dogs want to stay with you and in those positions that you've reinforced them for staying.
That is wonderful. Look at them. They're just so happy to be next to her. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to try to do a demo with Lolly. She is not going to pull. Obviously, I have no distractions here for her to even want to pull. So I'm going to invent a distraction by tossing a treat out, and she's going to go for it. So obviously, she's going to pull towards the treat. I'm doing this just for demo's sake. She's going to pull towards a treat. I'm going to wait her out until she turns and looks at me or orients back and gives slack in the leash. Either one of those things. If she does either one of those things, I'm going to quickly mark and then try to get another treat in there to her and keep moving. So we'll see. That's why I was saying it. This one's a little hard to demo under these Zoom format, but I definitely think that between the video and this little demo, I think we can get you guys going. You've already been working on the rewarding in the comfort zone, or I'm sorry, the proximity zone. Okay, Lolly. Well, let me just grab my leash. Hold on. Okay, baby. So if you're using a clicker, I think maybe you guys are all using marker words, so this might not be applicable. But if you were to use a clicker, you could do it like this, and then you could hold your clicker like this. I recommend that you put your treat bag on this side, or you have treats ready in your hand, either one. Oops. I'm just going to have some treats in my hand, so I'm not worried about moving my treat bag. So, some treats ready. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to lure her into position. Come on. You ready? You going to walk with me? Start walking. Come on. She's like, I don't get this game. This is stupid. I'm treating her at my heels. I'm giving her some prompting because she's like, I don't really get this. So now I'm going to toss a treat over there. I'm going to wait her out. Good girl. Well, I'm going to let her go and have the treats before we go on. So I wait her out. Come here. We call this red light, green light. So I'm going to try this one more time. Come on. Let's try this one more time. She's starting to pull. I'm going to hold on. Wait till she looks back at me or gives me slack in the leash. If she doesn't do it, I'm going to give a little prompting. Yes, good girl. And then off we go again. Okay. That does not win a prize for the best demo ever, but I think you get the picture. So I'm going to see if you guys can go ahead and leash your dog. I'd like for you to go ahead and leash them up for this and see if you can just make a little path. So we're going to mark and reward them for being next to us in our proximity bubble of your choosing. And then I want you to put the treat down at your heels, mark and reward. If you find that you're doing red light, green light constantly, then what that means is you're not marking and rewarding enough for when your dog's doing what you want them to do. So we'll start with little Kavik. Looks like he's ready to rock. Looking good. That looks great, Marie. Very good. That's a nice little sit there. I like that. Very good, Kavik. Really sticking close to you there. That's looking good. It's kind of hard to demo the pulling in here in the room just because he doesn't really have anything to pull at. But just so you understand the mechanism or the concept of when they pull, we want to wait them out or do what Kiko Pup does and prompts them back towards you. And then when you get that slack leash, then you continue on. So either one of those concepts work. That looks great, Marie. Good job. Good job, Kavik. Look at you. Okay, let's go up to the little Reba here. So we want to do a high rate of reinforcement. Looking good. And I find that putting it down at our feet kind of helps us keep moving sort of more seamlessly because they'll just grab it and then they'll keep walking. So I just put that right down at your feet, like back at your heel. And then they're forced to like go eat the food right by your heel, which kind of, again, sort of reinforces that staying in the zone. Looking good with Reba. And she's probably not going to be doing any pulling in this environment, just like Lolly wasn't. Looking good. So she goes, whoops, good attention there. I love that. And also when they just look up at you, I'd mark and reward that. That is extremely important. If she just, unless they're looking at you constantly, then no, I wouldn't do that. So I'd let her catch. There she goes. She's right there. So I think are you preferring the right or are you just preferring anywhere on either side? Because it's totally up to you guys.
Preferring the right.
The right. That's what I thought. That's the way it looked like it. Yeah. So yeah, that looked great. I think you get the idea. So that if Reba starts to pull, wait her out. If it's going on for way too long, then I just would add like a prompting noise to get her to look back to you and then give her a mark and a reward. I would try to wait them out because when they choose to do it on their own, more learning occurs. So try to wait her out if she starts pulling. Or do you want to do, it's looking really good though with her. Do you guys want to do a demo with little Millie?
Good news.
I'll try, but she's
She's crashed.
Come on,
Well,
Millie.
again, I'm going to send the video home with the
All right.
homework if you think that she might be a little more in a training mood. She's pretty.
I think she's in a sleep mood right now.
Okay, no worries. Just so you kind of get the concept, and it'll all be in your homework if you want to work on it, you know, when she's a little more enthusiastic.
Okay.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So yes. So when you start to work on pulling, it does require a fully pretty much a full commitment. But again, if you're not ready to bite that off right now, then just continue to mark the check-ins, mark and reward check-ins, and mark and reward when they're staying in that proximity bubble. And you will still be progressing. And then when you decide to just really bite that pulling off, because it is, it is a commitment when you step out of the house or with that leash on to work on that consistently. So yeah, so that's all going to be homework. And also I was going to add, if you don't want to work on the pulling right now, I don't think you need it for Kavik, but something to consider is a no pull harness or a gentle leader for their snozzle, some people call it, can help them not practice it. So the less they practice, the better, to help with the pulling. And that way, it doesn't train them not to pull, but the less they practice it, the less they'll do it. Okay, let's see if there's anything else I left off. So yeah, again, if you're finding yourself doing constant red light, green lights, meaning having to stop and wait your dog out, it just means that you're not having a high enough rate of reinforcement for when they are doing what you want to do. Okay, so we are actually going to work on leave it again, and we're going to work on open hand today. So we've been doing leave it with the closed hand, and when they disengage from our hand, we were marking and rewarding. Today we're going to do an open hand. The difference is, for one, our hand's going to be open and the treat's going to be on there, but we are actually going to be marking and rewarding for the lack of going for it at all. So with this, we were rewarding for going for it and disengaging, or not going for it at all, either one. But for this, we are actually going to require them, in order to get their treat, to not actually go for it at all. So I'm going to do a little demo with Abigail. I'll grab her real quick. Come on, Lolly. Lolly. Okay, so I'm going to have a low value treat in my palm, and I'm going to be rewarding with much higher value treat. I'm going to warm her up. I'm going to warm her up first with closed hand, and I recommend that you do that. I'm going to put her so you can see her. There she is. She's little. Leave it. Good girl. I'm going to treat her from the other hand. Leave it. Girl. Leave it. Good girl. Okay, now I'm going to try doing it with my open hand. And I don't want her to go for it at all. Leave it. Good job. Leave it. Leave it. Good girl. I'm going to try to go a little closer. Leave it. Okay. She did bounce a little towards it, but I'm just going to consider that just a little bounce and not actually trying to get the treat. So if they're going for it, I would move your hand. I would make sure your hand is far enough out and a little up to make them successful. Instead of putting your hand like right under their nose, you need to like sort of put it out and a little up. And then you can slowly start moving your hand down towards the floor, because the next step is we're going to lay our hands on the floor. So that's kind of the progression. So again, we're making the criteria not going for it at all. So if you do this and they go for it the first time, make it a little easier for them If they go for it a second time, then go back to the closed fist. It just tells me they're not quite ready to graduate to the open palm at this point. So let's start with little Reba.
Always forget the process of leave it. Okay.
She's not going for it all. That's great.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want when we go on to the next step.
That was
And
my-
that is, so she did go for the open palm. And do you have the low value treat in that hand?
Yeah, I just got kibble in that hand.
Okay, I would make sure, first of all, you only have one piece of kibble,
Okay.
because the more that you have in there, the smellier it is and the more tempting, and also the more valuable. And we want to make our leave-it hand pretty, not completely unattractive, but compared to what they're going to get instead, unattractive.
Yeah.
So she's still going for your open hand. So here's what I would suggest. Go ahead and stand up. She's pretty close to you, so that's very challenging. So I would try putting your hand out and further away from her. That looks good. It's a little out of reach, but it's still okay because she's seeing it, but she's not going for it. That looks good. Try lowering it a little bit and putting it further out. That's great. There you go.
Girl,
Looking good. Try lowering it a little more.
leave it.
Great.
Girl.
She was thinking about it, but you marked and rewarded and pulled it away from her before she had it, before she was too tempted. And also something I want to point out, Reba was looking at your hand, and then I noticed that she was looking up at you. That's what we want in the final incarnation of this behavior. That is what we want. So from this point forward with Reba, I would wait for that look, because that look is what we want to reinforce. So when you put out your hand, I'll show you one more time. So right there, I would have marked and reward a little faster
Okay.
before she went for it. Let's try that again. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. And she looked at your hand, and then she looked up at you. So let's try it one more time. That was
I'm just trying to figure out,
negligible.
like, in terms of the holding the hand out, like why we're doing that without like the leave it sound or other thing, because doesn't it just look like I'm trying to give you a treat?
So we say leave it before we present our hand to prepare them for the game. And we're teaching them, if they leave that, they get something better. So we're trying to make that leave it be basically represent a super high value reward. So leave it
Okay, we're just missing
is
those leave it call.
associated. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
we are teaching them impulse control to leave that, because guess what? You're going to get something better. If you hold out, you're going to get something better. And I've noticed that she's still not, she isn't consistently giving the look. So maybe not wait for the look right now, because I feel like if you wait for the look, she might actually still go for the hand. So kind of strike what I said, but think about it in the future as you're working on this. Once you get that look consistently, she did go for it. That's sort of in the gray area, because what we'd really like for her is not to go for it all. So put it out a little further from her.
Okay.
But it's looking good.
Leave it.
And she's mad.
Yeah,
Leave
but
it.
you guys get the idea. So yeah, mark and reward before she goes for it, and then as she starts consistently getting better at it and giving you a look, build that look into the criteria. And if we have to hold it up too high, so high that they can't even see it, then we might consider moving it further out or going back to a closed hand, because we do want them to actually be able to mostly see the treat. So in other words, if their head's here and we're holding it up too high, so just keep that in mind. But she's doing really good with that. I think she's getting it really well. How about little Kavik?
Leave it. Yes.
Very nice. So that looked great. I tried putting your hand out a little more so that maybe he doesn't even nose it. Like, he does his little nose thing. So maybe put your hand out a little further from him.
Okay. Leave it. Yes.
Very good.
Leave it. Yes.
That's what we're going for, Marie. That right there. That's what we want.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Excellent.
Leave it. Yes.
Good work. Okay, you're on the right track. So, Marie, what I would tell you to do, you're at the point, it's the next step, and we're going to work on it next week, is what I want you to do is start moving your hand incrementally as you're training and making sure that he's successful all along the way. I want you to start moving your hand down to the floor so that your hand will be resting on the floor with the treat in it. Once the treat is near the floor, it becomes extremely challenging because dogs live on the floor and it belongs to him. He's like, that's starting. It doesn't fully belong to me because your hand is in the way, but it almost belongs to me and I will claim it. It gets extremely challenging when we take the hand away and we put the food directly on the floor. Now that's an even bigger leap. But I would, for you, you're ready to start incrementally working your way down to the floor until your hand is resting on the floor with the treat in it.
Okay.
So I think you're ready for that. Do you guys want to just let Millie, the sleeping dogs, lie?
We'll just let her sleep. Sometimes she's pretty grumpy when we try to wake her
Okay,
up.
no worries. This will all be in your homework. So, so yeah, if you feel also with Reba, if you guys get some really good solid work in this week, same with Millie, just as I mentioned to Marie, you can start moving that hand down to the floor, but we'll go over that next week too. And again, try not to use leave it in a real life setting. Only use the cue when you're training because we don't want to use the cue and then not be successful. Because what's going to happen is they're going to learn that that cue is not relevant to them anymore. They'll just start tuning it out. Okay, so we got one more thing on the agenda. We'll just work for like 2 or 3 more minutes. We want to just work on a little recall, and we want to do it with the treat distraction. It'll be easier for Shane and Darren, and I don't know if Kara and Peggy to do. Well, I guess it won't matter because it looks like Millie's checked out, so that doesn't matter. So what it'll be just another process with you, Marie, since there's nobody else there to hold the treats. What I would like for Darren and Shane to do, I would like for one of you to get some low value treats and put in your hand, just 3 or 4, not like a huge handful. And I want you to offer it to Reba. You can kind of sort of keep it closed, but still so she can get in there and maybe nibble at them. And then the other person, I would like to do, go a few paces away, say their name, wait to see if Reba turns towards you, and then go ahead and deliver the recall cue. What we're doing is recall with distraction. And we're using a distraction. What we're using for the distraction is treats from somebody else. So, so I get either one. I don't know how you want to do it. Who wants to do the recall? So get Reba over there sniffing those treats, and then I want you to try to call her away from those treats. Shane.
Reba.
Wow, excellent. That was great. Okay, that's it. You got it. So I'll let you guys work on that. I'll just take a little look at Kavik. So what I'd like for you to do with Kavik is take a little handful of treats, really low, like just kibble. And you might need to put him on the leash for this. Well, no, that's okay. Take a little handful of treats and go be ready to do the exercise. Go ahead and lay him down like over on the other part of the room. And then when he starts to go over there to get those treats, I want you to try calling him away with it. It sounds challenging, but I bet you Cabot can do it. He's got a pretty darn good recall at this point. So make sure the treats are really low value, and I just do like 2 or 3. And just kind of toss them over there. And get ready to call him. Maybe not.
Nope.
Try again.
Cabot.
Well, he stopped his search anyway. So let's abandon the treats and let's just try a recall without the treats. So see if you can just sort of get him, maybe toss one treat off to get him disinterested. There you go. Now just try to do one. There it is. That looks good. So yeah, it's a lot more challenging when you're the one who places the treats on the ground. So I'm not really surprised at that. But that recall is looking good. So in other words, the point being to start adding some distractions to your recall.
Okay.
And treats are just an easy way to do that. Say that name, wait for the head turn, and then go ahead and deliver your recall cue. And the reason we wait for that head turn is because we want to be reasonably sure that they're going to come to us. If they don't turn their head when you say their name, then I can pretty much bet they're not going to come when you deliver the recall cue. Eventually, you'll just be able to, if you want, just deliver the recall cue. But we're doing the name first at this point, just so that we can have a more solid foundation of knowing that they're going to come to us. Because if you keep saying their name and recall cue and they're not coming, then you're just, again, like with the leave it cue, they will start to tune it out and it will become useless. So, all right, you guys, looking good. Hopefully Millie's going to be in a more of a training mode at a later date. But you know what? If I had a puppy and they were chilling out, I'd be like, okay, let's just go with this. So totally get it. So all this will be in your homework, and good seeing everyone. And I will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks. Bye.